actually think about why they're eating what they're eating. So instead of it being a focus on you and what you eat, it's a focus on why am I doing this in the first place. Second, it's great because okay, there's two other reasons it's great. I'm going to get back to you at the end of the presentation, but yeah. Okay, so a lot of times we'll also be asked these questions that we are asked over and over and over. Who's been asked where do you get your protein? Like at least 10 times in their life. Yeah, everyone. Everyone gets asked where do you get your protein. So every time we're asked that question, there's a very good chance this is the first time that person is asking us that question. That's the first time they're even really thinking about that. And so it's very easy to just like laugh at them or think they're joking. I've done that before, where someone asked me, where do you get your protein? And I just laughed at him. And he was actually serious. He literally did not know where I got my protein. And once I explained it to him, he went vegetarian and is now working on going vegan. And so when we respond to these questions as sincerely as possible and recognize that this is the first time for someone else, we are more likely to be met with some positive results for animals. And remember, everyone does want to be liked. Everyone does want to find that community. So when we are kind and respectful about what we're talking about, and when we're having these conversations, and we're making sure that people feel like they're being listened to, and we truly do listen to them, they're going to be more likely to really take our words seriously. Okay, so next we want to be optimistic. Now I totally get, in the world of animal agriculture, just animal exploitation, that it can be really hard to be positive. And I totally get that. But the reality is, people do want to be around positive people. If we are constantly talking about factory farming and animal exploitation, it's going to drive a lot of the people that we really want to reach away. Now, I do want to say that there is a time and place for negative talk about animals in terms of how they're treated. However, there's one really major caveat to this. Whenever we talk about the exploitation of animals, it's super, super important that we immediately follow it up with a really powerful ask, such as, so this is what's happening in the industry, but this is how you can help. When we follow it up with an actual legitimate way that people can get involved and people can help, it's a much more, we get much more positive responses out of it. So if we're just sitting there and talking to people about how horrible the industry is and not giving them a way out, not giving them a way to help it out, it doesn't help the cause at all. So what that could look like sometimes on social media is making sure that we're reaching a balance. And not even just in social media, just in our day-to-day lives. So for example, on social media, you'd want to sandwich your posts about the negative exploitation of animals between some more positive things in your life. So, for example, I went kayaking today. Oh, like look at this information on how dairy cows are treated on farms. Oh, look at this amazing vegan recipe for vegan ice cream. Things like that. So when you sandwich your posts between more positive things, it helps people understand that you actually do have interests outside of animal rights, and it makes you a more approachable person, and so you can connect with more people about the issues at hand. And even if we look at some of the greatest leaders, some of the greatest social justice leaders in history, people like Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., we notice that they have absolutely optimistic, magnetic personalities. And even the people in our own lives, if we look around and see the people in our own lives that have magnetic personalities, they are very positive people. If we want to help animals, if we want to make sure we're reaching as many people as possible with information about how they can help animals, we want to make sure that we're maintaining that positivity as much as we can. With that said, I think it's very important to also have your vegan community to rant to, because I get that. Okay. Next, we want to make it easy for people. When it comes to being vegan, I think a lot of us here know, if you've been vegan for a long time, we know that sometimes the first month or so is difficult, but after that, it just gets so much easier. We all know that when people are not vegan, they oftentimes see veganism as extremely daunting and not easy. So whenever we make veganism look difficult, we're putting up a barrier against helping animals, and we don't want to do that. So, yeah. One way that we cannot put up barriers is not, so okay, just hear me out on this one because it sounds kind of weird at first, but I promise it makes sense. Not be purist vegans. And so what I mean by that is, the reality is we are all harming animals in our day-to-day lives, unfortunately. When we are eating food, the pesticides kill animals, they kill bees. Even if it's organic food, it involves animal manure. When we are harvesting food, a lot of times it involves killing small animals. Even tires, bike tires, car tires, they do have animal products in them. And so if we wanted to be totally pure vegans, we could by going out in a cabin in the middle of the forest and eat berries all day. But that is not what the animals need. The animals do not need our purity here, they need our advocacy. They need us to be messengers to the rest of the public about what is happening to them and how we can help them. So every time that we make veganism look easy and help people along that path, we're basically doubling our impact for animals. But every time we put up a barrier and make veganism look really difficult, we are turning people away, and that is not helping animals. So instead of giving the server a third degree about how the veggie burger was cooked, or whenever we're at a potluck, talking to everyone about how we can't eat the bread because we're not sure if there's milk or honey in it. So instead of doing that, we want to not do that. So for example, before you are to go to a restaurant, if you are worried about how the burger is cooked, which I get that, I am very worried about grills and stuff like that too. You could just call the restaurant ahead of time and make sure that you know exactly what you're going to order, so when you get there you can order with gusto and you don't have to let everyone else at the table stress out about what you're eating. This is great for a few reasons. One, because people are much more likely to ask you about this curious thing you're doing if it's not a difficult thing. You know, if they see that it's something that's easy and it's just part of your life and it's natural, they're much more likely to ask about it than if you sit there and are questioning the waiter about how the burger is cooked. It's not something that they want to get into. And same with office parties. If you're going to the office party and you're worried about the food there, you could just bring a vegan dish yourself, or you could just get on the office catering committee to make sure that there are plenty of vegan options, if not totally vegan. Okay. So next, we want to make reasonable requests. Now, when we're being positive with people, when we're matching our interests and values and appearance to our audience, we are going to win over a lot of people. A lot of people will take steps towards going vegan or completely go vegan because of us. However, there are going to be occasional people who just think it's impossible. And when that happens, it's important that we do make reasonable requests for them. So for example, if someone says, oh, I'd love to go vegan, but I could never give up cheese. I'm sure every one of us has heard that so many times. There's two ways we could go about it. We could say, oh, well, if you still eat cheese, you'll never be vegan, and just drop the conversation there. Or you could say, well, you can still help animals if you cut out the rest of your animal products from your diet, and just continue eating cheese. That is going to make a much bigger impact for animals in the first place. But I don't want this to make it seem like we're settling for less here, because we're not. What this is a psychological concept called foot in the door. A lot of us, I'm sure you understand what that means. But basically, once people start identifying as people who reduce the amount of animal products they eat, they're much, much more likely to take another step in the right direction. So at the Humane League, this looks like our Meatless Monday program that we promote, where we have people take steps towards eliminating meat just one day a week. And once people are comfortable with Meatless Monday and they find recipes and they realize it's not actually that hard, they're much more likely to listen to and ask when we say, hey, would you consider going vegetarian half the time, or would you consider going entirely vegan? Okay, so, let's see. Yeah. So those are some of the effective activism tips that we have for people in our day-to-day lives. Now, a lot of us will make a lot of great change for animals if we apply these tactics in our day-to-day lives, and it's going to have a huge impact on animals like her. But the beauty of all this, though, is that if each one of us here in this room were to just help 10 other people go vegan in our lifetimes, that would multiply the number of animals that we're sparing by 10. And there's a beautiful thing called a ripple effect, where people continue getting that message out there. It's just going to spread and spread and spread. And that's a really beautiful thing. And there is really so much to be positive about. The caging of animals is phasing out, which is really fantastic. The number of the number of vegan products you'll find in grocery stores that stimulate the taste of animal products is just through the roof. There's so many of them, and they're just keep getting better. And then the number of vegans and vegetarians around the world is exploding. It's drastically increasing. And there's a really lot to be hopeful about. So I like to end this portion of the presentation with a quote from Gandhi. He says, "First they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they fight you, and then you win." Right now, the industries that are exploiting these animals are fighting us. They are. So we're on the tipping point towards winning, and I'm really excited to be part of that fight. So if you want to learn more about the tactics that a lot of business people use in order to communicate with people, I highly recommend these 2 books. You can find these for pretty cheap on Amazon: How to Influence and Influence People, and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. These are read in business schools across the country, and so many of these lessons can be applied to our animal advocacy, or really any advocacy we do. And then, of course, there's another few books that are great for people that really want to focus in on the animal advocacy side of effective communication. Animal Activist Handbook and Gentle Heart are great. You can also find those for pretty cheap on Amazon. The Humane League usually sells those when we're at veg fests and whatnot, but they're super cheap on Amazon. Just get them there. Okay, so Fast Action Network. If you want to get involved in our national campaigns, we have an incredible online network of people, thousands of activists across the country, who take action a few times a week to do things like sign petitions, put out tweets, really simple one-click activism that has a huge impact on animals. And if you want to sign up for that, you can sign up on this clipboard afterwards. But there's also a lot of ways to get involved at the grassroots level locally. And I know a lot of people in this room have volunteered for the Humane League, and I hope can vouch that it's a fun experience. So we do a lot of leafleting at college campuses across the country. Here in South Florida, it's in South Florida. This is a group of us at FIU last year. We also do some leafleting at weekend events where we're going to have a really high impact, such as Pride festivals and St. Patrick's Day parades. And when I say leafleting, also I should define that. That's basically handing out information about factory farming and how people can go vegan. We also do tabling at events to talk to people about how they can go vegan and also how they can get involved in activism at a local level. We also have vegan starter guides that some incredible volunteers have distributed across mostly the Miami area, but a few up in Broward as well. In the past year, they've donated about 20,000, or they've distributed about 20,000 vegan starter guides, which are really phenomenal. And then we also have a lot of social events just to unite the vegan community, because a lot of us know that one of the main causes, or one of the main reasons for vegan recidivism is not having that community around us. So we want to make sure that we are maintaining that community as much as possible. We have vegan drinks events and other events, but if you are not yet involved, go to the Humane League South Florida on Facebook and like that page and subscribe to the events, and you'll be affected on them. And there's also internships available. Right now, our summer internship roster is full, but we are accepting interns for the fall. So again, if you want to sign up for that, sign up on here, check the intern chat box. Now, beyond the grassroots advocacy that we do to help people go vegan, I do want to talk a little bit about the international corporate outreach programs that we have. And these, corporate outreach is a weird way to phrase it because the corporations don't like us. It's corporate campaigns is what it is. But anyways, we do massive corporate campaigns to change the way the industries treat animals. And we don't believe that these are an end game where as soon as we reach these wins, that means we should never stop advocating for those animals again. We view this as a really important step in the right direction towards animal liberation. So, oops. Got a little bit there. Okay. So the past campaign that we've been doing for a few years is to eliminate the use of battery cages in the egg supply chains of corporations around the world, especially in the US. And so, as a lot of you know, chickens that lay eggs are often shoved into tiny little cages about the size of a microwave. There's about 6 to 8 hens in a cage the size of a microwave. That's like 8 to 10 people living their entire lives in an elevator. It's an extremely horrible environment, and so we're trying to change the way that those chickens are living, but also disrupt the industries themselves. And so we had incredible success with this in the United States. We were able to get every major food service provider to switch to changing, to commit to eliminating, having trouble speaking, to commit to eliminating cages from their egg supply chain. But it's not just food service providers, it's also all the major restaurant chains, all the major food manufacturers, and all the major food retailers. Now, we've caused a lot of commotion in the egg industry, and it's, you don't have to take our word for it. So this right here is the head of the US egg industry. He says that humanely have been harassing and bombarding every retailer, every food manufacturer, every food company there is with a very aggressive cage-free campaign. They're the ones that have been driving this, there is no question about it. And based off of the momentum of that campaign, we were able to get a really large victory just about a year ago in June 2016. So as I'm sure a lot of you know, in the egg industry, male chicks are usually ground alive or they are suffocated before they're even 24 hours old. And this is due to the fact that, unfortunately, male chicks have no use to the egg industry. It's absolutely horrible, and it's horrible the degree of suffering, but also just the numbers that suffer. But just a year ago, based on the momentum of the cage-free campaigns, we were able to have very, very careful negotiations with the United Egg Producers, which represents 95% of the eggs in this country, and they committed to stopping the grinding and maceration and even killing of newborn male chicks by 2020. And this is due to in ovo sexing technology that they are developing right now. But this was a really exciting win for the humanely and more importantly for animals, because this will spare the lives of 700,000 male chicks every single day once these technologies are put in place. That's about 255 million chicks every year, and that number is just going to increase more and more as we are getting more and more victories around the world. So after the wonderful wins that we had on the cage-free campaign, we're extending those across the entire world, but we're also right now working on a campaign to change the industry for chickens that are used for meat. So between 8 and 9 billion animals every year in this country are killed let me rephrase that. 8 to 9 billion chickens every year in this country are killed for their bodies. And so we are trying to change the way that they are treated. They're treated in horrible ways, everything from the breed of animal, where they're bred to artificially suffer, they're artificially bred to suffer for their entire lives. The animals are kept in really filthy and overcrowded environments, and the animals have horrific slaughtering methods where the animals are oftentimes fully conscious when their throats are slit. So we're trying to address some of these major cruelties in this industry, and we started off with a campaign last October against Aramark, the country's second largest food service company. And we had a lot of campaigning going on to get them to change the way they treat chickens, and within 5 weeks, we won that campaign, and on the same exact day, Compass, the country's largest food service company, also made that same commitment. That will impact the lives of over 100 million chickens every single year, just those 2 commitments. And we've been winning more and more commitments and are starting to really build up that momentum. So now, one of the big campaigns that we're working on is against Darden to, again, change the way that they're treating the chickens in their supply chain. Now, Darden is the world's largest full-service restaurant company. They own chains like Olive Garden, Bahama Breeze, Yard House, Longhorn Steakhouse, all these places. And they have a huge impact on the industry and how these animals are treated. So, in South Florida, we've really had a big focus on this company. Just a month ago, April 24th, we had a big launch of protests against them in South Florida as well as cities across the country. We've been doing leafleting outside of their restaurants, educating their consumers about what's happening to their animals. We have been doing a lot of campaign parties locally. And we actually just recently, last week, brought the campaign to Orlando, Darden's headquarters. And in Orlando, we had a massive campaign party to make sure that everyone was getting involved in the actions against all Garden and Darden. We had a massive march against cruelty between 3 of Darden-owned restaurants on the most touristy street in Orlando. We then did a demo in downtown Orlando, and we did a petition drop to make sure that the CEO knew that 66,000 people across the country were horrified by what was happening and are demanding change. And so we're going to do some quick campaign actions after some time for Q&A, but again, actually I'll just go ahead and pass this sign-up sheet around now so you can sign up while we're doing Q&A. But if you want to get involved in any of the local campaigns or even the vegan activism, please do that too. There you go, also. And also, before we get to Q&A, I wanted to give a quick shout out. So there's an amazing event happening next weekend, June 4th, called National Animal Rights Day. If you are at all interested in animal activism, there are going to be so many incredible groups there. Vegan Outreach, the Humane League, Miami Animal Safe. I'm going to actually invite Laura up real quick to give like a 30-second spiel about the day, because the NARD organizers are here and they've been working so hard on this event.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Laura. I'm here with a few activists, and we're doing a NARD event next weekend, June 4th. We're doing this event with an organization called Our Planet Theirs Too. This event happens worldwide. It's to commemorate all the suffering and death that animals go through worldwide. Sorry, I'm not a good speaker. But yeah, just like she mentioned, there's going to be a lot of groups there. I'm going to name a few of them. It's going to be Humane League is going to be there, Shutdown Palace, which is from Wendy, Vegan Outreach, Miami Animal Save, South Florida Animal Rescue is going to be there, Florida Rescue Farm, Everyday Humane, which they work with children and they do activities. South Florida Vegan Education is probably going to be there. We have a lot of vegan restaurants that are going to be there, like Full Bloom, Choices Cafe, Plant Food and Wine, Plant Way Cafes, Splurge, and Vegan Schmegan Cafe. Also Clean Green Vegan. And there's going to be a vegan fashion show. There's going to be a lot of activities happening, so if you guys want to participate in the ceremony, you can also volunteer with us. And I have a lot of flyers here if you guys want to pass them out to your friends or if you want to take one for yourself. But please do join us. It's the first event that we're going to have in Miami, so it's going to be really exciting and really big. So please join us.
Okay, and that's June 4th at Regatta Park from 1 to 6, is that right? Cool, awesome, I got it. Okay, cool, so this is my contact information. I recommend if you want to reach out to me afterwards, feel free to take it down. But if there's any questions from the audience, I'm happy to answer a few, and then we'll jump into some of the campaign actions real quick. That works. Cool. Any questions? Yeah.
The actions that you're taking on months to help save animals from suffering, does that have any like positive impact on, or in their case, a negative impact on like the medical industry or pharmaceuticals?
Does it have a negative impact for pharmaceuticals?
Yeah.
I don't think our actions have a direct impact on the pharmaceutical industry, other than actions that help people take steps towards going vegan. I know that people that are vegan oftentimes have much lower health costs, and that works against the pharmaceutical industry, but I don't think there's any direct impacts. That's a good question. Yes. Okay, great, hold on, I got that. Okay, so 3 reasons it's great to have this conversation. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, first of all, it makes people think about why they eat what they eat. Second, people really feel heard about the topics at hand, so much more likely to listen if they know that they're being heard. And then third, we actually learn what the challenges are, so when we're having those conversations, we're able to really communicate about the issues that are important to that person, and we're able to match our conversation to what their interests and concerns are. So, yeah.
everybody here in this room, I suppose, we're vegans. One of the major arguments I think they have with some is a way to do things to be more effective and especially to put an idea of what we really are about. Right? And see there's like several trends, especially welfarists and abolitionists, right? So I see a lot of the work, the Humane League focuses on welfare. But maybe this will lead to abolitionism in the end. So can you elaborate how?
That's a good question. So the question is about welfarism and abolitionism and the animal rights movement. This is an extremely complicated concept that I won't get into too much right now, but very briefly as I can make it, there are some different thoughts about how we can be most effective for animals. Some people think that we need to advocate for veganism right now, all the time, and anything less than advocating for veganism is harmful to animals. Some people, though, think that we should work on incremental steps towards things like the welfare campaigns that we're doing. We view these as increments towards really abolishing the use of animals worldwide. And so what I can say about the Humane League is that we definitely, for people that make that divide, I personally don't really think that's an appropriate divide because I think that everyone working for animals, for veganism, is an abolitionist at heart. But some people would consider the Humane League to be a little bit more welfarist. But the truth of the matter is, every person that works full-time for the Humane League is vegan. A lot of the work we do is to help people go vegan, and also the campaigns that we're running, we know that they have a very serious impact on the industries in a lot of ways. So right now, these industries, the reason they're operating the way they are is because they are setting the standards for what animals are treated like. And it's obviously totally horrific. And so if there's any way that people that care about animals can have an impact on how animals are treated, it's going to help those animals go in the right direction, but it's also going to cause irreversible damage to these industries.